Yeah, I mean, it leads to another thing, which I tell people all the time, and I had it in 100% of my companies. You never know, and you need to be flexible in what you do. So you you start with this idea, and then suddenly things change, you turn right. You're adding a little bit to the product, changing it, then you turn left. You may not end up where we start the idea.
Mm.
And if I'm looking on my previous company, on my current companies, after a few years, things are changing. You just need to have the flexibility and the constant, absolutely constant questioning. Are we good in what we are doing? Is this the right solution? Should we do something else? Do we need to change? What is the market changing? How should we adjust to the market? Are we stuck? How do we change it to get over that stacking point, etc., etc.?
Welcome to the Break Free podcast. I am your host, David Mansella. As everybody knows, I dedicate this time to shine the light on the people that are making this world a better place. And today we have with us a great example of that. Avner, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for hosting me.
Avner, for the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Sure. Avner Schneur. I live in Boston, Massachusetts, and I have a few jobs. So I'm the CEO of a company called GRM, which is a document management. And then I'm also CEO of a company called Visual Vault, which is a content management. And then I have a venture fund called Concurrently, which I am, and in the venture fund, I have about 30 companies, all of them technology, most of them are in healthcare. And in the venture, some of the companies that we have significant equity, I'm also the chairman. So I'm the chairman of Zappix Inc. I'm the chairman of PetPace, and then on the board of a whole bunch of them in addition to that. So busy stuff.
Tell me, Avner, one of the patterns that I find in this podcast is that people that hit a certain level of success, they tend to overdo 99% of the rest of the population in terms of performance and contribution. How does that happen? Like, how do you manage your day so that you can have so many things at the same time and still be efficient on all of them?
That's a great question, which I'm asked many, many times. It's even beyond that because some of the companies don't have anything to do with the other one. So, it's many times people are basically saying, I'm just kind of amazed that you don't confuse and you don't bring this issue with that company and these people, etc., etc. I think it comes down to significant focus. It comes down to significant efficiencies in managing the different affairs, and most important, having a very strong team in each one of the entities that allow you to stay in a certain level and not dive into being, either operational or any other things that may require too much time, which will not allow you to be the busy bee. I mean, the benefit of the busy bee is you fly to one flower, you do what you do, you fly to the next one, then you fly to the next one or come back or whatever. So I think creating significant efficiencies within each one of the entities and staying very, very focused, having great processes in each one of them, and as I said, most important, having a great team in each, allows you to do all of them together. The challenge is managing the time, meaning that you are cognizant of your time, you're cognizant of the fact that, this is this is a difficult task, and you need to make sure that you are allocating the right time for the right things that you do. Otherwise, the whole thing is collapsing.
Yeah, that's for sure. Avner, now tell me, after so much success and so many stories, I'm sure you have a lot of failures and success stories and a lot of achievements. What keeps you going at this time? Like, what motivates you to keep going with all these directions?
That's a great question. I think I'll go to a little bit of philosophy, a little bit, and then to other things. First of all, number one, I greatly enjoy it. Meaning, I enjoy the fact that we are in a creation mode. The fact that the company is creating and providing significant innovation or significant services or whatever it is a significant satisfaction for me and for the team. The fact that you can achieve things and the fact that you have a direct influence to a solution or to an operation or to innovation is I think is amazing motivation to do all of that thing. There is another motivation that exists with some other things. So the other motivation is, and I'll go a little bit into a detail on that. About 12 years ago, my wife and I created a philanthropic center for research for diabetes. And that's a center that is taking the challenge to find a cure to diabetes, which was laughable when we started it because people said it's too much of a complex disease to find this thing. But my background is computer science, industrial engineering. My wife has a PhD from MIT in applied math, so we have no bio background. But after many years of philanthropic, and after getting a significant exit from one of the companies, we made the decisions that with the amount of money that we want to create positive influence to humanity. So this is a little bit philosophical. So we went and researched that and eventually found a brilliant professor that was willing to assemble a team and start this research from scratch. And 12 years after that, we are in a point where that innovation right now is being converted to a bio company, meaning try to bring it to consumers and to patients on that. So something like that is an amazing satisfaction because you are now impacting potentially tens and hundreds of millions of people if this thing is going to work. So you have the one that is coming on the capability satisfaction in the business, and this one is more holistically on really doing things for humanity. I mean, different. Going back to the industry, one of the things that it keeps you not just going, but may I say running and climbing, because if you're just going, it's not good enough. You have to, run and climb and push, etc. Is the fact that you're doing things that are very unique that may influence many, many people, many companies. So my previous company, which called them Taurus, we created analytics for procurement, managing total cost of ownership for large companies. And that was after previous exit that I had, and my wife and I decided to do something together. So we both quit, and we started the research on doing something together because of her background in applied math and deterministics and stochastics modeling. We found a niche of creating algorithms for total cost of ownership, which is optimization basically, for large companies. So we developed the company from scratch with venture money and a lot of support and an amazing smart team. So we developed that for, a few years, and we created a change in the mind of companies, how really to source, buy goods and services, looking on total cost of ownership versus, single thread of importance. So if you buy, for example, a specific equipment, it's not just how much it costs you, but the maintenance, the service, the longevity, et cetera, et cetera. And that's good also for services. I mean, it's not just for that. And some of the things are actually very, very simplistic when you look at that. But some of the projects are gigantic. For example, our software used to create that at that time, the 3G towers for Vodafone. That's tens of billions of dollars. And our software really optimized between the vendors, what to do, how to do, et cetera, et cetera. Motorola was crashed in the 2000, and we have a beautiful video which is on the web still in YouTube on how the COO is describing how our company helped recreate Motorola by having a very, very smart procurement, intelligent, etc. Analytics. So things like this is a massive satisfaction. I mean, massive. I mean, you really influence the health and the business of companies. And Taurus later on was sold to IBM as the analytic engine for the procurement for IBM. But these kind of things are, creating a huge motivation and a huge satisfaction. So I'm speaking too much. So back to you.
No, Avner, it's actually very deep because, the points that you touched, all I see, I'm a computer scientist too. My background is computer science. I started writing code when I was 16 years old in a Commodore 64, right? And when I see the way you operate and I see the patterns for my other guests, when people achieve great things, it's not because of the money. A lot of people that want to be rich, a lot of people that want to become wealthy, they think about the money itself without realizing that the money is not the goal. The goal is actually adding value to humanity, because when you say you're impacting companies, you're saying you're impacting people, because companies is not more than a group of people getting together to add a product or service. And I can see it in yourself by actually creating this other non-for-profit that has a huge ambition of getting rid of diabetes, right? So if you think about it, I'm a man of faith. And the Bible says that God created man and woman according to God's image. So if you think, that's why we always try to grow. So what you're saying right now is, I want to grow because it gives me satisfaction for the help that myself provides to all these organizations that I'm leading. And at the same time, I want to bless other people by getting rid of this horrible disease. So all I hear is, you have love and kindness in your heart, and that's what motivates you to be involved in so many things at the same time while being efficient around them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something personally. We are, my wife and I, we are blessed and we are capable to do a lot of things. But I, for example, object to go on a private jet. I don't do that. I don't think it's a good thing. It's a waste of funds that can be used for other things. It's affecting the environment, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have a, 20 million yacht that can go on whatever. So I have the things that I enjoy. We have we have things that are very expensive that we enjoy. We have a house on the beach that is important. We have other houses in locations that we feel pleasure to be there, etc., etc. But we are very reserved in not doing anything that is beyond or over the top and things that we don't believe in. The private jet, not that I can afford a private jet, but I definitely can afford flying, is not things that I think are good for environment and for anything else. And I rather use the money for other things, for whatever they are. So I think the line of thoughts, and people say, you are stingy in your behavior in some of the companies, and I'm proud of that, because today most of the money that we use in the companies are ours, but there is always investor, etc., etc., and some other people's money are more precious than your own money.
You have such a great answer there. There is this big forum in Davos right now. I think it happened last week. And one of the reporters said it's crazy to see that all these people get together to talk about climate change and how to help it.
And then each one comes with a private jet that generates tens of kilotons of, that's kind of...
And all of them going to private jets, burning all this fuel for one person. It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's... people say about efficiency, etc., but in the end of the day, all right, you're going to save a few hours. And anyway, you're absolutely correct.
Avner, what's the secret of getting to where you are? Let's look back and see where you were. Number one, how did you figure out you wanted to be a computer scientist? What led you into that career?
Oh, that's a great story, actually. This is really, really good story. So what happened was, I was in the army. I'm from Israel. So I was in the army for 3.5, 4 years. I got out of the army. For some reason, I always wanted to play with stuff, and engineering was my direction. So I went to the Technion, which is the kind of the MIT of Israel. I thought, well, no question about it. I'm going to do that. And computer science was in a rise. And so I enrolled computer science. Well, I started to go to the classes, and I found out that, all my day, I'm in front of a screen. I'm sitting and all my day and nights are in front of the screen. And I said, is this what I'm going to do all my life? Programming and this and that. I don't enjoy that. That's really not a good thing that I think will be good for me. So I went to, and I didn't know what to do exactly. Classes started already. I'm talking about 3rd, 4 weeks of the semester in the first year. So I asked to meet with the dean of the computer science, an amazing guy. He died already. And he says, yeah, sure, I'd love to see how can I help. So I went for a meeting with him, and he, behaved almost like a psychologist, not like a dean of computer science. And he started asking me things on, what do you like? What is this? What, generic questions on that. And he's questioning me for like half an hour via conversation, right? And then after half an hour, he says, you're not in the right place. I said, you know what? I know, that's why I'm sitting here. But he says, look, you come in the right timing, because we are opening another track, which is called information systems. that is a combination between computer science and industrial engineering. And I think you will enjoy that, because in the information system side, you interact with people, and you do system analysis, you don't program every day, etc., etc. And he started describing to me what is this new department will be. It's a joint department between computer science and industrial engineering. And I said, you know what, it sounds way better than sitting in front of the freaking screen every day. And I say, you know what, I think I'm going to go there. He says, this is great because we just opened it and we would like people to go there. So I went there. The good news, there was a lot of aspect of elements of system engineering and application engineering and interacting with people, finding the right way to design systems, etc., with people, not in front of the machine only. The bad thing was that they just started it. So what they did is they had, like, in the first year, maybe 4 courses that were dedicated to this program. But then we had to do the full computer science and the full industrial engineering. So I ended up doing the full industrial engineering and the full computer science, but I got a degree in information system from sort of both of them. But it was the right decision. And this man changed my life, because he really helped me understand. And I wasn't that young compared to my kids that are graduating from high school, and in 18, they have to make a decision what they're going to do. I was already 22, 23. A little bit more established with my thoughts, being in the army, etc. But he really helped me in my future, and I tended more and more into the information system analysis, application, etc., and less about the programming. I was still doing it in early days, but he definitely influenced to the right direction, and it was the right direction. And I think one of the things that I see in a lot of people is, and maybe one more thing on this thing. So I actually joined a company that did medical imaging equipment, CT, MRI, ultrasound, etc. I was in the division of nuclear medicine, which is a very small division actually in the imaging, as a system analyst and things of this type. And I learned a lot, and they actually the one that brought me to the US. But that was my last time I worked for a company. And from there, I joined another guy, and we started a company. I was the CTO, VP engineering. The other guy was the CEO. He was more mature. I mean, I was only 4 years out of school. And, we had an amazing run. We went with no investors to an IPO, which was like unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Consulting in the side, etc. And that was the last time that I sort of was an employee and not part of a thing. And then after that, went to another, started another company and another company, etc., etc. So I got the privilege to be in the sort of driver's seat all the time, which is one thing. It's a lot of fun, but on the other hand, the responsibility and the risks are just monumental. And if we'll have time, I'll tell you some of the amazing risk that we were taking in my last company and how did it go. So, that's kind of the experience where we got, if you want to take it from here.
For sure. Avner, did you land into the opportunity to start that company with your partner, or was something premeditated? Like, how do you divert it from a good, stable job, coming into the United States, a brand new country for you, coming from Israel, and how did you took that leap of faith to say, okay, let's do this?
I think part of it is being very young and low you know, or high tolerance for risk because you don't have anything. You know, you are very early. I mean, I came from Israel with a suitcase, literally. You know, my kids are laughing at me because right now, if we need to move, we need probably 5 long trailers. But we got, my wife and I, we each arrived here separately, but we got with nothing, really, 1 suitcase on that. So the risk of switching was not a fear. And the opportunity came by the fact that I met a guy that worked with my company, and he had this idea of doing that company. He already had some consulting, and he said, "Hey, let's grow it and go from there." And I said, "Hey, yeah, let's do it." And massive amount of risk, massive. And we were very smart and lucky. Luck is an important component. And we grew the company, and in 8 years, 7 years, the company went public. So you take the risk, and you have to be very smart and work around the clock, literally. I mean, we worked probably 12 hours a day, every day. There was no, we always laugh that we never had any, I don't know if it exists even, any golden thing in our hand. Everything was with a hard work, all the companies. So we are fortunate, and we got some luck also along the way, and company did well and went public. So I think that's the beginning, and then you become smarter and you know to manage risks better. And after a while, the risk is going down by the fact that you have more financial capabilities and you're willing to take higher risk because of your position, etc. So that's kind of how it grew.
That's a beautiful answer, because in a similar way, that's what happened to me, right? Like, one of my goals was to become a millionaire, but not to become a millionaire to say I have $1 million. My goal was to become financially independent, which all it means was that I wanted my passive income to cover my basic expenses. That was my goal since the beginning. And it took me forever to get there, but I finally got there in 2014. And by doing that, my risk tolerance grew, because if my bottom line is taken care of, why wouldn't I risk more? Right?
Yeah.
And that's how I end up, managing 7 different companies now. Now tell me, you were talking about managing high risk and having high reward, and you said you wanted to share your experience with the last business. What happened there?
Well, I mean, that's so that was my fourth business. And in the fourth one, that's the one that my wife and I decided to do together. And my previous company was sold. I had to stay for a year. I stayed a year and a day I quit. And we really didn't know what to do. We wanted to do something together and start to research what will be something that will have a good return, and there's no technology right now, etc. And we and because we were already sitting in a reasonable position, we hire a bunch of people. I quit my job, my wife quit her job, and we basically hire a bunch of people to benchmark different ideas that we had. So they, we raised one idea, we researched it, we killed it, then we raised another idea, we researched it, then we killed it. And then I think it was like the fourth idea that came up, and we really liked it. From what is in the market, from what we think we can bring, etc. That's the optimization for procurement, for total cost of ownership. So we start developing it. There is a funny story about kind of trying to get validation and trying to get validation and how things are evolving. So that's a good story. There is a research company called Forrester. You may or may not know it. It's in Boston.
Yep.
And I knew the CEO, George. I think he's still the CEO. And for my previous company. So I called him and I said, George, I'm out of this and I want to hear your thoughts about something that we have an idea to do something. And he said, sure. So we go to breakfast. We live probably about 5 miles from each other. We go to breakfast and George is eating and I'm telling him what I think the idea is. So he's eating and eating, he doesn't speak. And in the end, we finish eating and I finish my description. He says, look, Avner, you're a smart guy. This is a really, really stupid idea, but why don't you find something else? And I'm like, why do you think it's stupid? He says, look, SAP and Oracle will eat you alive and et cetera, et cetera. I came back home and I told the team and we did it anyway. And rest assured, a few years later, we changed the world. We literally changed the world. There's no large company today that doesn't use optimization in order to do sophisticated procurement. So it just tells you that the risk is you have to follow your conviction. If you think that is out there, and analysts are great, they're very smart, but not necessarily they know it all the time. And sometimes the message, maybe it was on me that the message was not very clear on what exactly we try to do, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very, very difficult. So that's one kind of a story on a risk. The second part on the same company. So we decided to go. It was in September 99. So in September 99, we said, that's it, it's a go. We are going for this idea, et cetera, et cetera. And so we hired a bunch of people to validate, again, as I told you, validate different ideas and decided on this one. And I said, well, I'm going to raise money on this thing. I'm in Boston. There are a lot of amazing VCs here. So the first one I called was my previous venture guy that was in our previous company. And he said, oh, yeah, I'd love to listen to your idea. I came over, I gave him the spiel and this thing. He said, look, we love the idea and we love you. So, yeah, I think we are in. And he says, we're probably going to give you about $5 million to start. That's in October 99. So I'm like, you know what? Can you give me a piece of paper so I can go with this piece of paper and rent offices and stuff like that so people will see it? So, absolutely. So he gave me a piece of paper, which I still have with me, a letter saying, dear Avner Schneur, blah, 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 blah. We are very excited to hear about your idea about this thing. Our group is positively considering to invest $5 million in your venture. Blah, blah. Good. So I go, I rent a space for about 50 people in a very expensive area in the suburb of Boston. And then in Christmas Eve, and we're progressing, the guy's doing the due diligence, everything is positive, talking to a lot of people, etc. Christmas Eve, 99, a few days before 2000, I got a call from Mike, that's a guy from the venture guys. And he says, I don't know how to tell you, but we had a partners meeting, and we're all about consensus. I can't do anything alone. And Steve, one of the partners, raised concerns, and we're not going to do the deal. I said, Mike, you gave me the letter. I mean, usually venture guys don't want to give letter with money and stuff like that until it's done, right? You gave me the letter. We are negotiating on, T's and C's. And Christmas Eve, you're telling me you're not going to do that? And then I just rented 5 years, a room for 100 people. I'm really sorry, but we are consensus, and Steve insisting. So I said, should I come back? Because we were in a session where Steve was there. No, I think we are done. Oof. So if we are Christmas Eve, I have, a few millions of dollars of liability, of the most stupid liability, which is office space, and start hiring people. And I have zero financing because I relied only on him. Because he was my previous venture guy. So that was our wonderful Christmas. 2000 came, and of course we found a way. We found other people, and by February I was already fully funded. So
wow.
You need to make sure that events like this are not going to harm you and kind of create a negative power for what you're trying to do.
It's true, Avner. I remember I was pursuing this big client in 2008, and we had a contract signed. Everything was ready to go, a lot of money in the play. Like, we were already set up for the investment to start working with this big client. And then on a Friday, they pick up the phone and they say, sorry, we won't be able to do this because the market just crashed. And it was the 2008 market crash. And I'm like, what can I do? The contract was signed. I was just waiting for the first down payment for that money, and everything was aligned. But we survived. Like you said, one of the things that entrepreneurs have is that ability to pivot and figure it out. It doesn't matter how hard it gets, we figure it out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it leads to another thing, which I tell people all the time, and I had it in 100% of my companies. You never know. And you need to be flexible in what you do. So you start with this idea, and then suddenly things change, you turn right. You're adding a little bit to the product, changing it, then you turn left. You may not end up where we start the idea.
Mm.
And if I'm looking on my previous company and my current companies, after a few years, things are changing. You just need to have the flexibility and the constant, absolutely constant questioning. Are we good in what we are doing? Is this the right solution? Should we do something else? Do we need to change? What is the market changing? How should we adjust to the market? Are we stuck? How do we change it to get over that stacking point, etc., etc.? So I don't think I have one company that we started with one idea and ended up with a sale or IPO or whatever. It was the same idea at the beginning. It might be still there, but there were 20 others that came along that came with that. So I think that's a lot about making sure that you know how to adjust yourself into this thing.
You're completely right. It reminds me of the first company I ever invested on. It was Sweat Equity. I was very close friends with the two founders. I was the number 3 in the company as an independent contractor. But when things went really wrong, they gave me shares because they couldn't pay my bills anymore. And the company was about doing school level accounting, cash accounting at the school level, because everything was at the board level and it was a mess. And they realized there was a niche there. I'm talking 2005, right? The company was going bankrupt because we simply weren't charging enough for the for the service, and I was in charge of transforming the application from a desktop client server into a web solution in 2005. So there was a lot of investment going on. An angel investor came around. They injected money to the company, first $1 million, then $5 million. And it's funny because as we actually got the injection of money, the investor told us to pivot and figure out how to make more money with the application, because we already had the majority of the North American market. But the company wasn't breaking through past $10 million. So then we came up with the idea of creating a student card where parents could actually put money in, and with that card they could buy whatever they wanted at the school level and just charge a tiny fee per transaction. And that pivot change made it into a $100 million company. And then the company was sold. So the company became a payment transaction company. It became almost like a MasterCard or a Visa within the school context, with different regulations. The parents could see where the kids were spending the money. The parents could actually, prevent kids from buying certain things. It became a smart card for the school students. But imagine that their desire was to create an accounting system to manage the cash funds at the school level. That was the problem. But that gave birth to the real solution, which was the payment systems. Right?
Always that, yes.
Avner, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy person. We've been talking for 40 minutes already. I'll ask you one last question before we finish the podcast. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
Oh, that's an interesting. Well, there are so many things. You're asking about business-wide, humanity. What is it?
Whatever is mostly in your heart.
I think it's probably going to be something about something to do about people, and I wouldn't call it moderation and this kind of stuff. Let me tell you where I'm coming from. We just came back during the holiday. We went to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and it's an Arab country, and it's right now we are from Israel, etc., etc. We found a country with a dedication for tolerance and collaboration, which is amazing. So I think probably the thing that the country right now is so divided, it's scary how people the hatred that exists in thing of this type. I will probably dedicate something to tolerance, collaboration, and with a goal to have a better society, because right now we are not in a good direction. We are really not. I mean, you look on the political situation and everything that is going on. I'm not an advertiser professional, but if you ask me the topic, I think that's a topic I will probably.
You know what tolerance and collaboration resounds to me is respect. We lost respect for each other, right?
Correct. If you have tolerance, the meaning of tolerance is, I respect your ideas, respect mine, and I respect your behavior, etc., etc. So yeah, we were amazed in how that happened over there, but it's a very tough question, because where you publish it, what you publish, etc. But good question. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you so much, Avner. If people would like to follow you or know more about your life, your incredible businesses, where can they find you?
I think I'm everywhere in the internet. I don't do Facebook, to be honest with you. Very little Instagram. I am on LinkedIn from that perspective. And then just the different companies have their websites that they can see me, and I'm very accessible. My email is open to the public, so nothing is locked.
Beautiful, Avner. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thank you, and thank you for doing things like this. That's very nice. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Cheers. God bless.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.